Um, you know that feeling when you're at a crowded party and everyone around you is just laughing and chatting, and for a split second you just feel like you're speaking a completely different
Oh,
language?
definitely. Like everyone else got a script and you missed the memo.
Right, exactly. Or maybe you're, I don't know, sitting in a meeting at work, nodding along, but deep down there's this mild imposter syndrome whispering that you're just pretending to be a functioning adult. And eventually someone is going to figure it out.
Yeah, the classic fear of being exposed.
Yeah, we have all been there. But imagine taking that fleeting, mild feeling of being an outsider and magnifying it into a terrifying, inescapable, lifelong condition. That's what we are getting into today. Welcome to today's deep dive, where we're exploring excerpts from Osamu Dazai's novel, No Longer Human.
And this source material is, it's intense.
It really is. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore the anatomy of profound alienation, what it actually means to feel entirely disconnected from the human race, and we'll look at the elaborate, honestly horrifying psychological masks we construct just to survive.
Yeah, it's a staggering piece of writing. The author explores this anatomy of disconnection right from the prologue. He uses this brilliant framing device. We are given descriptions of 3 photographs of the protagonist, Yozo, spanning his life.
And these aren't just snapshots, right?
No, not at all. They are a literal roadmap of psychological decay.
The descriptions of those photos are so vivid they genuinely sent a shiver down my spine. Especially that first one.
The childhood photograph.
Yes. So Yozo is about 10 years old, surrounded by women, probably his sisters or cousins. He's standing by a garden pond, head tilted, and he has this bizarre, ugly, monkey-like smirk on his face.
Right, and at first glance, a casual observer might just think, oh, he's being an adorable, goofy kid.
But the text points out that the longer you look at this child's smiling face, this unspeakable horror creeps over you.
Because the physical mechanics of that smile,
Yeah.
they completely contradict the emotion of joy.
Also,
Well, if you look closely at his hands in the photograph, he has tightly clenched fists. Yeah. Human beings do not smile genuine smiles of happiness while their fists are doubled up in a defensive posture. What you actually looking at is a puckering of ugly wrinkles. It's a desperate performance masking absolute terror.
that's chilling, and the progression only gets more unsettling from there. Like in the second snapshot, he is older, a student, and he's extraordinarily handsome, but the beauty is entirely artificial.
Mm.
The smile is described as being light as a feather, lacking the heaviness of blood or the solidity of actual human life.
It's like a blank sheet of paper smiling.
Exactly.
Which is an incredibly lonely image. You're looking at a facade that has completely consumed the person underneath. But the third photograph is, well, it's the climax of this descent.
The adult one.
Yeah. He's older, sitting in a dirty, crumbling room with his hands over a little heater. He's not smiling anymore. There is zero expression.
Not at all.
But the truly monstrous part is that the face has completely lost its individuality. The narrator notes that the second you shut your eyes, you forget the face entirely.
It just fades away.
Right. It leaves no memory. It's described as an effigy, like a human body with a horse's head attached.
Okay, let's unpack this. We go from a terrified child with clenched fists to an artificial, weightless student to a blank, dead-eyed adult who literally vanishes from memory.
It's quite the trajectory.
To understand how this horrifying progression actually happened, we have to look at how his brain processes reality from the very beginning. Because his alienation is rooted in a sheer terror of basic human norms.
That fundamental misunderstanding of humanity is key here. Yozo doesn't just feel socially awkward. He genuinely lacks the internal blueprint that tells the rest of us how to navigate practical life.
Like the train stations.
Yes. He looks at pedestrian bridges at train stations and assumes they were built as foreign playgrounds to make the stations look cool. Yeah. He sees bed sheets and thinks they are just uninspired room decorations.
The utilitarian logic of society is just completely inaccessible to him.
Completely. And it even extends to his own biology.
Right, the hunger thing. This blew my mind. He talks about literally never understanding the physical sensation of hunger.
He knows intellectually that he is supposed to eat, but the feeling of an empty stomach doesn't register.
So when his family sits down for these gloomy, silent meals in their dark country home, he doesn't see it as nourishment.
No, he interprets the meal as a terrifying, solemn ritual. Like he's thinking, maybe it's some kind of prayer to appease lurking spirits.
And when he hears people say, human beings work to earn their bread, for if they don't eat, they die, it doesn't sound like a biological fact to him. It sounds like a menacing threat.
Think about the psychological toll of that. If you lack the intuitive understanding of why people do what they do, human behavior seems entirely random. And random means dangerous.
Yeah, unpredictable.
Yozo actually compares human anger to an ox.
Oh, I remember this analogy.
Imagine an ox sedately sitting in a grassy meadow, looking incredibly peaceful. Then, suddenly, without warning, it violently lashes out with its tail to kill a horsefly.
That is terrifying.
That is how Yozo perceives human nature. To him, humans are hiding a horrifying, violent core beneath a calm surface, ready to strike him down if he missteps.
It's like being dropped into a complex multiplayer video game, right?
Right.
But you're the only one who didn't get the tutorial or the rule book.
That's a great way to put it.
To keep the other players from attacking him, he realizes he has to keep them distracted. So he just continuously spams the joke button. He becomes an accomplished clown.
What's fascinating here is how his clowning isn't for attention but a desperate camouflage. It is a brilliant survival strategy, specifically a trauma response.
Right.
Exactly. We often hear about fight, flight, or freeze, but Yozo relies on fawning, appeasing the perceived threat to avoid conflict. We tend to think of the class clown as an extrovert craving validation. But for Yozo, he refers to it as his last quest for love directed at a species he dreads.
Just trying to stay under the radar.
He calculates that if he can keep them laughing, they won't realize he's an imposter, and they won't unleash that unpredictable ox-like wrath on him.
There is a story from his childhood that captures the tragedy of this so perfectly. The lion mask incident.
Oh, this scene breaks my heart.
Right. So his father is traveling to Tokyo and asks all the children what they want as a present. He's writing their requests down in a notebook. And when he asks Yozo, Yozo freezes.
He is physically incapable of stating a preference.
Because he's terrified of making the wrong choice and triggering his father's anger. So his father gets annoyed and asks if he wants a book or a lion mask.
And the silence just stretches out until the father angrily snaps the notebook shut.
Which, for a child like Yozo, that anger is a life or death crisis.
His primary defense mechanism, keeping the peace, has catastrophically failed.
So in the dead of night, he sneaks into the parlor, finds a notebook, and writes lion mask in big letters.
Even though he didn't want the mask at all, he wanted the book.
But he knows that writing lion mask will trick his father into thinking he was just being a mischievous, playful little kid. And the heartbreaking part is, it works. The father laughs about it later.
But this teaches Yozo an incredibly dark lesson about human interaction. He learns that human beings are incredibly easy to deceive, largely because they deceive each other constantly.
Like with his father's friends.
Right. He watches his father's friends brutally tear down his father's political speech behind his back, only to walk into the parlor a minute later and shower his father with genuine-looking praise.
Seamlessly.
Yozo realizes that what we call society actually runs on mutual, insincere performance. If everyone else is acting, he just needs to commit fully to his own performance as the farcical eccentric.
And this fragile defense mechanism works perfectly for him for years. He glides into high school as the popular clown.
But camouflage is exhausting.
It really is. And it only takes a seemingly insignificant moment in high school to threaten to tear the mask off entirely.
Plunging him into a new kind of hell.
Right. The crack of the mask happens during a physical training class. High school by the sea. Yozo is playing the fool, as usual. He deliberately botches a jump on the horizontal bar, landing face first in the sand just to get a laugh from his classmates.
And it works. They laugh.
But then Takechi, who is described as the puniest, clumsiest boy in the class, sneaks up behind him and whispers the most terrifying words Yozo could hear.
You did it on purpose.
5 devastating words. Those words completely shatter his reality. Now, I have to pause here, because we usually think of being deeply seen or understood by another person as the ultimate human desire.
The cure for loneliness, essentially.
Right. Why is it that for Yozo, being seen by Takechi feels like the world bursting into the flames of hell?
Because Yozo isn't seeking connection. He is seeking survival. When your entire existence relies on a meticulously crafted illusion, being seen is equivalent to being hunted.
Oh, wow. Hunted.
Yeah, he doesn't view Takechi's observation as empathy. He views it as a threat of exposure. If the rest of the school finds out he is an imposter, he assumes their reaction will be righteous, violent vengeance.
So his immediate reaction is a frantic attempt at damage control. Driven by dread, he tries to manipulate Takechi by feigning this gentle kindness.
The ear-cleaning scene.
It is so visceral. Takechi's ears are severely infected, literally running with pus, and Yozo painstakingly cleans them out for him.
It's an intimate, sickening act of bribery.
And Takechi completely misses the manipulation. He repays this with a prophecy. He tells Yozo, women will fall for you.
Which is a prophecy that definitely ends up haunting him later. But Takechi gives him something much more significant than that. He introduces Yozo to the paintings of Van Gogh and Modigliani.
Yes, the artwork.
But when Takechi looks at these works, he doesn't call them impressionist masterpieces. He calls them ghost pictures.
And that phrase completely rewires Yozo's understanding of art. He has an epiphany that these great masters weren't just painting pretty landscapes, they were painting the monsters they saw in broad daylight.
Putting their own dread onto the canvas.
Exactly. So Yozo begins painting his own horrifying self-portraits, hiding them in the back of his cupboard, because they reveal his true, harrowing reality.
That's why the ghost pictures matter so much. It's the first time, the only place where Yozo doesn't have to clown. He finally has a space to acknowledge the monsters.
And seeing these hidden paintings, Takechi delivers his second prophecy: Yozo will be a great painter.
But the tragedy is, because the ghost pictures reveal a reality too harsh to live in, and because he cannot handle the pressure of his own identity, Yozo escapes into a world that makes as little sense as he does.
Right. He seeks out spaces that don't operate by normal rules. He descends into the Tokyo underworld.
The contrast here is important. He goes to college in Tokyo, this is the 1930s, and he is appalled by the intense, communal, youthful pride among the students.
The earnestness terrifies him.
So he gravitates toward Masao Horiki, a cynical art student who introduces him to the city's underbelly: drink, pawn shops, and prostitutes.
He develops this deep affinity for prostitutes. In his internal monologue, he views them not as human beings, but as imbeciles or lunatics.
Which sounds incredibly degrading.
It does, but within the twisted framework of his mind, he can find absolute security there. He says he even sees them with the halo of Mary, because with them, the pressure to perform vanishes.
They demand nothing of his mask. But his search for escape doesn't stop there. Horiki takes him to a secret Marxist reading society.
Which is highly illegal and dangerous.
Very. But Yozo doesn't care about the politics or the economics.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Why does a man who is so terrified of everything actively seek out the most dangerous, taboo elements of 1930s Tokyo society, like illegal political groups?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the logic of the world is what frightens Yozo. Ambition, sincerity, social ladders. He prefers to swim in what he calls the sea of irrationality.
Ah, I see.
In a structured society, an illegal, taboo space is composed entirely of outcasts. He feels safer doing dangerous, secret missions for them than he does living in the logical, brightly lit world.
But this sanctuary of irrationality crashes down when his father sells their Tokyo house. The money dries up, Yozo is broke, desperate, and in this vulnerable state, he meets Tsuneko at a Ginza cafe.
She is a married woman. Her husband, who is a criminal, is sitting in jail.
And they share this quiet moment where she whispers to him, "I feel so unhappy."
That single admission of misery bypasses all of Yozo's defenses. He feels a profound connection of shared misery.
They spend the night together, and the next day, reality asserts itself. Yozo opens his wallet to pay and finds only 3 copper coins.
It's a devastating moment.
He describes the humiliation of those 3 copper coins as something he just could not live with.
Well, because the tragedy of the 3 copper coins wasn't just poverty. It was the final destruction of his rich man's son mask.
It left him completely defenseless.
Exactly. He has no money, no standing, and no energy left to perform. So when Tsuneko proposes they die together, they attempt a double suicide at Kamakura.
Tsuneko dies, but Yozo survives.
Surviving, however, doesn't cure his alienation. It forces him to navigate the world as a disgraced outcast.
But in this outcast state, he stumbles upon a shocking revelation about the society he has feared his entire life.
Yes, the demystification of society.
So he's expelled from college and placed under the care of his father's henchman, a man he calls Flatfish.
Flatfish insists on giving these maddeningly vague, roundabout lectures.
The indirectness drives Yozo so crazy he runs away. He becomes a kept man for a journalist named Shizuko.
He draws cheap comic strips, The Adventures of Kinta Ota, just to buy alcohol.
And he plays with their young daughter, Shigeko, until one day he overhears Shigeko praying to God to get my real daddy back.
Which terrifies Yozo. It's a brutal reminder that he is still an intruding stranger.
So he bolts again. Eventually, his old buddy, Horiki, tracks him down and lectures him, warning that society won't stand for his behavior.
And that specific word, society, triggers a massive internal breakthrough for Yozo.
He realizes that society doesn't exist. Society is just Horiki. Society is an individual.
When Horiki says society won't stand for it, what he really means is I, Horiki, won't stand for it.
Right. And freed from the abstract fear of the massive ocean of society, he starts living aggressively in the then and there. He moves in with a Kyobashi bar madam.
He stops worrying about the ghosts of science, like wasting grains of rice or the bacteria on the subway.
He meets Yoshiko, this pure, naive 17-year-old cigarette shop girl. She begs him to stop drinking. And one day he shows up, lies to her face that he hasn't been drinking, and she blindly believes him.
Her uncorrupted trust is so intoxicating that he decides to marry her, just to experience the savage joy of that trust.
So what does this all mean? I have to ask, is realizing that society is an individual actually a profound wisdom that frees him? Or is it just a convenient excuse? Is he just shrinking his world down so small that his selfishness is easier to justify?
That's the core question. Yozo's right. Human beings do often hide their personal judgments behind the mask of society.
We absolutely do.
However, by reducing the world to individual momentary contests, Yozo turns into the very monster he fears. He compares himself to a toad moving sluggishly, acting on base impulses, avoiding both great joys and great sorrows.
It is a devastating trajectory, and it forces us, you, the listener, to look in the mirror. We all wear masks.
Oh, definitely.
We all have moments where we perform for our families, our bosses, or our friends, hoping they don't see the clenched fists behind our smiles. Yozo's extreme journey forces us to look at the energy we spend pretending to be what the world expects.
It demands that we ask what that performance actually cost us. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
If Yozo is right, and society is just an illusion made up of isolated one-on-one interactions, are any of us actually participating in a grand, shared human reality? Or are we all just wearing customized masks, performing deeply isolated plays for an audience of one, terrified that the person across from us might suddenly whisper, "You did it on purpose"?
Wow. That is a thought that will stick with you long after you clock out today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Stay curious, keep seeking the truth behind the masks, and we will see you next time.